Hi, thanks for visiting the channel. You may be looking for a new tile cutter to do DIY projects or to actually start your new professional tiling business. So my name's Darren from UK Pro Tiling Training, and on this lesson I'm just going to show you literally the difference between the two of the most popular types of tile cutter. And one is called a twin rail and one is called a monorail. So if you like what you see on this video, please hit the subscribe button and have a look at the different videos that I've done on different aspects of tiling. So we'll have a look at the twin rail one first, straight into it. So this twin rail system is generally one of the biggest companies that make this is called Ruby. And I've done one of the other videos which go through 5 of the best Ruby tile cutters that they produce and all the different aspects of how they work. So I'll just show you how a twin rail compares to a monorail of cutting ability and what the pros and the cons are of whatever. So we'll look at this twin rail. So it's pretty obvious the reason why it's a twin rail, because it has 2 rails and it's got like a sort of a guide on here that runs up and down them rails. It tends to have a floating bed. So the process of how this works is when I press these beds down, there is like a central bar in there. So once the tile is scored and you press down, then bars will retract. And then when you put the breaker down, which I'll show you how it works in a minute, the breaker will produce this kind of bend on the tile over the bar. Obviously breaks the tile. So the main benefit of a twin rail system is generally they have like interchangeable blades. So this is called a scoring wheel, which is a stem and it's got a wheel on the bottom. Now these start in a 6mm wheel, generally for ceramics, and then it goes to an 8mm wheel, which sort of ventures into porcelains, 10mm wheel, which is porcelains, and it goes right up to 22mm wheel, just for like heavier duty sort of stones, tiles. Now not all natural stones can be cut. In fact, very few natural stones can be cut on any kind of dry cutter. So generally you're restricted to just cutting ceramic or porcelains on this kind of machine. You'd have to go into angle grinders and wet saws if you're going to do natural stones. But we're going to stick to cutting a ceramic tile on one of these two. So what we're going to do here is we're going to put a 6mm wheel in this particularly tile cutter like this. So I've got a ceramic tile here. So all I'm going to do here is I'm going to place that tile in there. Would have generally marked this to where the cut was going to be, but for this reason we're just going to cut it sort of down the middle here. So the first thing we're going to do here is we'll need to start this from your angle. What you don't want to do here is get what's called a fishtail. And what a fishtail is when you cut the tile, the bottom of the tile hasn't been caught and it sort of curves off a little bit. So we need to really make sure that we catch the first 5mm of that sort of tile. So what I tend to do here is start the wheel on this tile about 5 or 10mm just inside that, and then pull it back. So now you've pulled it back, you've automatically scored the first 5-10mm of that. So what we can do now is pick that little score up and then with the constant pressure go all the way to the top. So from here we're just going to score that tile all the way at the top. What we're going to do now, we're going to lift this up, and if I push this forward, you'll see that this breaker bar is literally fell forward now. And the breaker bar, if you can see that, hangs below that wheel. So now, when I said before, when I press that handle down, these beds are going to retract. It leaves the central bar in place and the tile will break over that. So if I push it down from your angle here, you can see that tile there is literally just fell in half. Simple as that. Quite powerful, and it does the job. So very easy to use. If I do it again from this angle, so it's a pull back and then a forward motion, lift it up, push the bar forward, always break it 1 inch from the top, press down, bends the tile, breaks over the top. Now the good thing about twin rail systems are they're very clear and easy to see what you're doing, because if I mark the tile here and I mark the tile here and I may be cutting slightly across that angle there because the wall is running off, It means what I could do is I can get back in this position here and I can see directly through that, and I can like sort of start that wheel where it's on that mark, and then I can like sort of finish that wheel on there and just change the tile slightly until I know that mark is on there and that mark is on there, and then score it and then break it. So you've got direct vision through this twin rail system there, exactly what you can see. So anyway, anything that you see is a twin rail system will generally have interchangeable blades, and it's pretty straightforward with a braking bar, brake wrench from the top. Quite easily, job done. So let's look at the monorail. So this particular cutter is called Sigma, which if you look online, you'll see loads of different models in the range. But generally all Sigma models are what's called a monorail, like this. So it has a fixed sort of handle. This particular one's got a fixed breaker, but you can get ones that have got like a movable brake as well. But I'm sure there's other YouTube videos that you can see that will just demonstrate each particular model. But I'm just demonstrating at the minute between a monorail and a twin rail. So again, this has floatable bed. So if I press them down, again, you can see that bar is going to be raised. So again, once I press that breaker bar with the tile on there, this will come down. This breaker bar will bend the tile over after it's been scored. It's going to break the tile. So again, the benefits of a monorail is it's a much more powerful cutter. These long rails here, sometimes you get a real tough tile. When you press down, these rails can like sort of bend up a little bit. Whereas this solid bar here is a lot stronger. It's virtually going to be impossible for that like sort of bar to like sort of come up. It doesn't matter how much pressure you put on it. Whereas the twin rails can like be a bit more restricted, really, with power really. So yeah, you have a restriction on like sort of how much of a tile you can break with this weaker system than this one. So depends on what you're looking for. Do you want ultimate power, or do you want something that's a little bit easier to see? So it's a bit of a trade-off. Anyway, if I do this cut on here, you can either get a push version or a pull version of this one. This particular one is a push to score. So this tends to have a fixed wheel. So this is a one size wheel that does everything. So again, just like the twin rail, I'm going to score that first 5 millimeters just to make sure that I catch the beginning. So I'm going to rock that handle forward and then bring that back. And then I'm going to like sort of push that forward to score that tile all that way. I'm going to bring this bar back again, inch from the start. And again, I'm just going to gently tap it like this. And that just sends a little shock into the braking bar. The bed sinks down, bends the tile over the brake, and you can see that breaks pretty easy. So I do this process again without explaining. Score it back, up to the top, little tap, breaks pretty clean. Now, so both tile cutters are going to do the job of cutting a tile. So the problem is now is the visibility on this is a little bit more restricted than this one. This one, as I showed you, if we mark the tile here and I mark the tile here, I can see through that sort of twin rail there, and I can position that wheel there, and I know it's going to cut exactly on here. Now, it might be hard for the camera to see, but if I've marked that there and I've marked that there, this bar is directly over the top of your marks. So when you're trying to like sort of see where the mark is on the tile, it's a little bit harder to try and see where you're actually sort of going with it. So it's a little bit of a little bit awkward, especially if your tile cutter was on the floor and you're crouching right down to try and find out where that is rather than being on a table. So really what you're relying on is the central bar down the middle, which is the cut line. So if I mark that there and I mark that there, I'm sort of aligning from the start of that bar onto the cut in that really. So it's a little bit guesswork, but you get used to it. And obviously once you've got that angle, score it back, run it forward, break it, inch from the top. And as you take the tile away, that should be literally on the marks of where you cut it. So it's not a big deal. I'm just trying to like show you the difference between like sort of how easy it is to see on a twin rail is against it's a little bit more restricted on the monorail. But you get used to like sort of position it on the bar to do the cut. So that's about it really. Like I say, like both tile cutters, 6 and 2/3. Some people prefer the monorail, some people prefer the twin rail. Check them out on YouTube, or go if you're in the market for a decent tile cutter. Actually go into your tile shops. They should have the different variants on the shelves. And I dare say if you're going to spend £200, £300, £400 on a tile cutter, a good one, a professional one, they should be able to let you try one out and see which one you prefer. So thanks for listening. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button and see all the different videos on lessons. Anybody looking for a career change, check out UK Pro Talent Training and see the variety of like sort of courses that we run to try and change career. Thanks for listening. My name's Darren.